And for more, let's bring in Mosheh Oinounou, who is the president of Mo Digital Consulting, joining us there from New York. Mosheh, thank you so much for coming on to chat. Absolutely heartbreaking, harrowing images continuing to pour in from right across the country. Tell me, how are people there in the US reacting, especially given to what we heard from President Biden a little earlier?
Well, first and foremost, I think the biggest concern that most Americans have right now is, can all the Americans get out safely? That's number one. It seems like right now the estimates are between 5,000 and 10,000 Americans. And given that President Biden had pulled out all the troops in July, and that was about 2,500 troops, he's now brought in nearly triple that to evacuate everybody. So I've been talking to some Marines here that are in touch with folks on the ground there, trying to get them to the airport. Remember, the main road to the airport is controlled by the Taliban. The airport itself right now is managed by the Americans. So that's complex. The second level of concern many Americans have is, what is going to happen to all the Afghan allies who worked with the U.S., worked with NGOs, worked with the military, who were promised safe passage to the U.S. and are stuck either in their homes in Kabul or all across the country and can't even get to Kabul?
So given, what you just said there, Mosheh, tell me, how much of a responsibility does the US bear in keeping these people safe? We know that these fighters have been going door to door looking for journalists and, looking for these people who have been helping foreign forces.
Well, you have to go to the Oval Office. President Biden has said, we will ensure that anyone who worked with the Americans will get these special immigrant visas and be able to come to the U.S. Unfortunately, given how quickly the Taliban was able to take control of the country, and given all of the visa delays that we've seen this year, and by the way, there were warnings from Capitol Hill to the White House that this 14-step process was taking too long and tens of thousands of Afghans need to be brought to safety immediately. The White House has said, well, you heard President Biden say yesterday, well, some of these people didn't want to leave as early. Well, that doesn't appear to be the case. So as far as the rhetoric is concerned, the U.S. does bear responsibility. And frankly, it's our reputation internationally that's at stake here.
And we know that the Taliban, we just broadcast a little bit of it just a little earlier, this press conference they just held in Kabul. Tell me, what really stood out there for you?
Well, what's remarkable is they're really putting forth this sort of softer, kinder Taliban rhetoric. We're not the Taliban of the 90s. We're a new Taliban that believes in education for women. What has stood out to me most from that press conference was, one, we believe in freedom of the press, except press that doesn't work against us. We believe in freedom for women and education for women, quote, within our framework. Well, what is their framework? You know this. Across the Muslim world, there are different interpretations of Sharia law and what it means for women. And so, actions speak much louder than words. And so while they've put forth this sort of rhetoric, the question is, what will that mean day in, day out for the average Afghan woman?
Yeah, for sure. And, as you just mentioned there, they're saying, that it won't be happening. But can we expect this to revert back to draconian rule?
I think it remains to be seen. They're only 48 hours in. They still need to consolidate control over the country. What is remarkable is they, launched this prison break in Kabul where 10,000 plus of the former Taliban fighters, Al-Qaeda fighters are now, moving about the country. Weapons are everywhere. And it appears that even if the Taliban is saying certain things in a press conference for the Western media, it is unclear whether that message is then being communicated across the country, where you're seeing reports of women being mistreated, being told not to come back to work, being told not to get an education, and going door to door while they say they're not doing it in Kabul. Across the country, they appear to be doing it, where they're looking for revenge against people who worked with the Americans in coalition.
Yeah, and just really, really briefly, tell me, Mosheh, we've only got about 30 seconds left. How much worse can this situation become?
Well, I think the biggest fear everyone has right now is a massive humanitarian crisis. Can the Taliban manage this country and manage millions of people? And ultimately, will the U.S. and the world be able to help folks? And will they allow humanitarian organizations in to help and prevent what could be a terrible crisis on our hands?
Yeah, it's certainly highly, highly concerning. Mosheh Oinounou, thank you so very much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.